Today's our 75th episode, the Diamond episode of the Deep Dives podcast. But today we're actually going to be talking about blessings and cursings. And then some more music stuff too. So episode 75 of Deep Dives.
Josh, I want to add one thing to that.
Okay.
I want to dedicate this episode to my lovely wife, my bride. It's her birthday today, and I want to tell her that I love her, and I'm just so thankful for her, and that she actually listens and watches this podcast. It warms my heart. I'm so happy. On a lighter note, it was Chris's birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
Wasn't it yesterday, Chris? Happy birthday, Chris.
Yep.
Appreciate that. And your anniversary is tomorrow.
Yeah, 23rd wedding anniversary.
23rd wedding anniversary.
Yep.
Wow. Would you like to wish your wife if she were to listen?
No, I'm just kidding.
It's not like it's
she
a
usually
big deal.
doesn't listen, but happy anniversary anyway.
And it's the 70th.
She's more of a true crime podcast.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
Type of aficionado.
And it's the 75th. 75th?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Of the Deep Dives.
of the deep dive.
Yeah,
right.
we used to be the Gun Club podcast,
Yep.
and we were the Marcus Point Baptist Church podcast.
Right.
And we're still affiliated with them, but the Deep Dives podcast.
You
deep
and
dive
I,
into any kind of thing.
right? You and I have done, I'm guessing, 250 to 300 podcasts.
Something
together.
like that, yeah.
I think I could go back and organize it all. It's somewhere around that.
Yep. It's on our archive channel.
Yes, it is. It is. But I'm tickled today because of everything that's going on, and I just love doing this. I love our new studio. Say new studio. 20 episodes,
Something like that,
15 episodes we've been here.
Yeah.
And we just
Since the beginning of the year, I think.
yeah, that's right. And it's in your office, and your office is call it an apartment converted into an office, and
Kind of, yeah.
kinda
It's an
like-
office building, but
yeah,
at least this unit kind of has the feel of an apartment.
it could.
Yeah.
I mean,
it doesn't have a shower, so a bachelor's apartment.
Right. It doesn't have a shower. That is one thing that we need over here, just in case one of us gets displaced.
Right?
It might be helpful to have a shower over here. And when I come from pickleball, like I did today, you don't want to get too close to me right now.
Might
'Cause
come in from a day of inspections and stuff.
nobody wants to get close to you there. That's for sure. But anyway, so we're gonna we'll talk a little bit about music, and again, I'm looking forward to when Donna sees this or hears this, we will have already celebrated her birthday. So, honey, I hope that we had a great weekend. I'm sure that we will. We're going to go out to eat. We haven't decided where that is yet, but I've got 4 presents for you. By now, you will have opened those, and I'll just tell you what it is. Tell you guys what it is.
I'm going to text her after this.
Yes. One book and one magazine about ChatGPT. Magazine just gives you a lot of little things about how to put data in to ChatGPT to get the data out that you want, and the book is ChatGPT for Dummies, and that obviously not. She's not a dummy, but it's a bigger book and it's updated, a second version, and she loves ChatGPT. So
Okay, I was going to ask, that doesn't sound like a typical birthday gift husband would give to his wife, but specifically, she loves ChatGPT.
yes, she does. She uses it frequently.
Have you heard the theory going around that it's like a theory that we're all AI and we're all just made out of prompts? It's called prompt theory.
I just don't even have the bandwidth to think about stuff like that. It's called prompt theory. No,
Yeah. You should Google it. It's funny.
I'll Google it. Well, a couple other things I got. She's also, since we've seen the movie, the Queen movie, I can't remember the name of it. Daggone it, I can't remember the name of it. But it's
The British.
yeah.
Okay.
The band Queen.
Oh! I was thinking the British Crown, like
No.
Queen Elizabeth, because there's a
Right.
movie about her.
Okay, it's not
You're talking
that.
about the band.
The
Queen.
band
Gotcha.
Queen, and the guy who played Eddie Mercury. Man, he did such a great job. He reminds me of James Dean, in the way he looks, the way he carries himself. He's young, good-looking kid, but he did such a great job of this movie, acting in this movie. And since then, she's been interested in Eddie Mercury and his life and everything. So I got her a book of his life and a box set of all the Queen best of Queen. There's 4 CDs in that thing, man. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of music. I mean, they did a lot of music that was popular and good. Anyway, so she got all those things for her.
Cool.
For her birthday. She didn't have a CD player, but no, she does in her car and at home. So anyway, and we're going to go out to eat somewhere. Any suggestions where I should take her to?
My wife and I just went to Siam Thai last night.
What is Siam? Sounds like
it's Thai food.
Thai food.
It's really good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Siam Thai.
Yeah. Call ahead, make a reservation if you do go there. I don't know if you like Thai food, but yeah, it was good. I mean, there's all the regular stuff like Texas Roadhouse.
Right.
But
right.
Memorial Day weekend is usually rough for restaurants
Mm-hmm.
because they're always so crowded.
That's true. It's a good point. New Hong Kong. Okay. All right. We'll do something. Something somewhere. Josh, I've been listening to some music. Now, I can start a sentence this way, and most people that know me will be able to finish the sentence. I went to a blank the other day.
Thrift store?
A thrift store the other day. Thank you. And I picked up these CDs. I've been going through a mode of greatest hits CDs. Now,
specifically remastered, though, right?
You know what? I've rethunk that.
Really?
And because I've been proven wrong.
Okay.
I got this 70s soft side. It's actually 1, 2, 3, 4 CDs in it, and it only has 3 of them.
Okay.
But they charged me a full $1. I could not believe I had to pay a full $1 for the. It's in great shape. Anyway, so 70s soft sides.
That would have been cool if you only had to pay 75 cents and talking about it on our 75th episode.
That would have been good. Yeah. That would have been good. However, paid $1. And it has Columbia House Presents. Do y'all remember what Columbia House is?
Yep. Many people have been trapped by
that's
Columbia
right.
House.
You pay a penny for now, and then later.
Yep.
But this says Columbia House, and it's just one of those typical, like Ronco. You remember Ronco? Yep. Saturday mornings, we'd see all the commercials and everything.
I had the Ronco food dehydrator.
All right. Yeah. There you go.
When I was a kid.
It says 12 times 3 songs on it. And whenever I looked at it back, and I started reading what was on here, and I could, in my head, sing at least the chorus of every song that I was reading. All right, that's all I need. I didn't even look at all of it. I looked at the first CD. And went, okay, we got it. So I've been listening to this, and I was very surprised at the quality. Now it changes from this is the revised version that I talked about a couple weeks ago. If it's a collection of artists, then song 1 could sound questionable. Song 2 could sound really, really good. Song 3, okay. So it's a mixture of things. And most of the time, it's the bass that's not there. It doesn't have any low end. But I was been very surprised listening in my Camaro. The songs that from the 70s, they sound really good. Some of them sound really good. They're mixed really well.
So what have been some of your favorites so far?
Oh, my goodness gracious. Gary Wright, Dreamweaver.
Okay.
Right? Ambrosia, Biggest Part of Me. Remember, this is the soft side of the 70s, okay? Dionne Warwick, I'll Never Fall in Love Again. Aretha Franklin, Daydreamer, B.J. Thomas, Raindrops Keep Falling.
Yep.
Come on now.
Let's see. I'd be dead.
Judy Collin, Amazing Grace. She does an Amazing Grace on this one. England Dan and John Ford Coley. I'd really love to see you tonight. I'd really love to see you. That doesn't
we
help,
just
does
became
it?
the seniors podcast.
I know. It's so true. It's so true. Seals and Crofts, Summer Breeze. Who doesn't remember that? Orleans, Still the One. All these things. It's just, the funny thing is, whenever I was listening to this music originally, it was all top 40. And I really wasn't a top 40 fan. But now that it's way back in the day, it's like, I love it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So anyway, that's one of them. But here here is the one that I almost jumped up and down whenever I found it, because it's one of those CDs that I forget to look for, but when I see it, I remember. And I saw it, and I've seen it before, and I open it and it's not there. I
Right.
open the case and it's not there. It's just the case somebody had stolen, or they whatever, it just wasn't there. Earth, Wind, and Fire.
Okay.
Earth, Wind, the very best of Earth, Wind, and Fire. Again, I'll say, whenever I'm looking at old music, I look for the very best, because if they put out 15 songs, maybe one of the albums may have 2 good songs on it. So I want the very best so I can get all the good songs.
Okay.
Shining Star, That's the Way of the World, Sing a Song, Can't Hide Love, Getaway, Saturday Night, Serpentine Fire, Fantasy. You may not think that you know those songs, but I can almost guarantee that you do.
Yeah.
Because it was during the 70s, and many things I love about this music. I love everybody in here is an African American with those awesome, cool afros.
Yeah.
Everyone, and they sing and they dance, and it's all choreographed. And whenever they do sing, my gosh, it's just so good. Look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 members of this band.
Yeah.
Why do they have so many? Because some of them play trumpet, some of them play trombone. What I've learned is that I miss the high end. I miss the horns in music. And the horns are almost, if not, I'll say more important than the lead guitar. Mm-hmm. You can go with just a rhythm guitar. One guitar, if you got 4 or 5 horns, that is Earth, Wind, and Fire. And with Philip Bailey singing the lead, real high head voice kind of a thing in the background. Fantastic, man. It's just one of those things that it's very dynamic.
Right.
So you've got the bass player is definitely more, in this music, more important than the lead guitar. There's hardly any lead guitar parts. So you got the boom, 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 and I love that. I love it. I love that. And I had forgotten that I love this music so much. So this was $1. This was $2. I had to pay up for this.
Oh my goodness.
This is $2 big.
You got robbed.
I got robbed. I got robbed. Yeah, there's There's 14 songs. At least 12 of them I really like.
So do you know? Have you listened to any of the lyrics of any of them, or just mainly have been listening to the instruments?
I still have chronic lyricosis, and I will sing what I think the lyrics are, and it's mostly just the. It's mostly just the chorus.
Yeah.
I don't care what they say. These aren't going to change. These words aren't going to change my life. You know what I mean? I've been singing them wrong for 40 years. I'm not going to start now.
Right.
I did. That's a smart question, because I did look through here to see if they had the words, but they don't.
Yeah.
So I was just going to see, how off I was. But no, I still sing it the same way as I sing it always, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
One thing I learned about singing with Philip Bailey and Earth, Wind, and Fire is it gives me a headache after a while.
Oh, really?
I got to hit those really high notes.
Yeah.
I'm singing in my high voice. Ooh, I'm making a little dizzy. I get a little dizzy there.
Yeah. Makes you wonder how the Bee Gees even survived.
The Bee Gees are the tempo of the Bee Gees. Tempo of the Bee Gees is slower, so I have more time to recover. You know what I mean? These guys' tempo's high a lot.
Yeah.
You got to keep hitting it. But I've been riding around with the top down. Mm-hmm. Sorry, the top up on my car, the soft top up, because it's already 100 degrees. I get out in the morning. If it's 7 o'clock, it might only be 77, but the humidity anyway. So I'm running the air conditioner, so I can't. It's not that I don't want to be seen in my car, but I love getting caught by somebody as I'm playing the air drums or the guitar, singing or whatever, just to give somebody an experience to talk about.
Right.
But I'm in my car and it's all dark and everything, and I'm just having a concert in there. It's a lot of fun, Josh.
Very
It's
cool.
been a lot of fun.
I wish I would have brought. I have something from that era on my bookshelf that I got recently.
Oh,
Wish I would have brought that in. I would talk about that.
What is it? You're going to bring it in next time.
Well, actually, press pause a second. I'll go get it.
All right. Good deal.
Okay, so I ran to the room next to us and grabbed some stuff off my shelf. So if you know me, you can probably finish this sentence. Probably
Yes.
not. But I am a huge
Nerd.
Okay, you could. So one of the
That
things,
came real quick, by the way, didn't it?
one of the things I love collecting is old textbooks, like science textbooks and math textbooks, engineering textbooks, stuff like that. Well, a couple months ago, I was up in Colorado, helping my mom go through her childhood home because my grandfather had passed away, fairly recently, and so I was helping her go through all that stuff. And in his collection of books was a manual of steel construction.
Oh my goodness! Look at that.
Yeah, and this is from. Let's see.
It's got some writing on the front too, man. On the
Yes.
in the cover.
It's cool because it has some of his notes and stuff in it.
Oh.
But this is the sixth. It's a sixth edition, but it was printed in 1966.
Oh goodness!
And
gracious. Wow.
but what's cool about this, like I have the current version of this.
Okay.
That I use in structural engineering, and this obviously predates that by 50, at least half a century.
Mm-hmm.
And what's cool is like this has been one of those guidebooks, one of those technical manuals, whatever, that has guided engineers in the design of steel structures for ever since the 1920s.
That is the Bible of steel structures.
It is. It's
Wow.
the Bible of steel structures. And like what's really cool though is having several different editions of this. It kind of shows to a nerd like me who's really interested in this stuff, like how design processes have changed over time. And then a friend of mine gave this to me the other day. I forget where he found this, but it was another edition of this.
Another edition.
Yeah,
Wow.
this is the.
That looks older.
It is. This is the fifth edition. So sixth edition, fifth edition.
Oh, I see a collection starting.
Oh, I already have a collection. Yeah, I have several editions of these.
You do? Okay.
Yeah.
All
In
right.
fact, in electronic format, I have every edition.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's
right.
different having a
You got to have the
scanned
hardcovers.
PDF from it's the American Institute of Steel Construction.
Mm-hmm.
It's different having a scanned version of a copy versus like a hard
Oh,
copy
absolutely.
that someone has put their life into. And this one is
Mm-hmm.
from 1959. So if you know anything about buildings like the John Hancock Center in Chicago, right? That's a big high-rise steel structure.
Okay.
It was built in the 60s. That was built off of this
I
manual.
was going to ask you what structures
Yeah.
we might know. Okay.
And
Good.
so like as these manuals progress, you can see like how engineers used to think because both of these predated computers.
My goodness.
And so the way of calculating stuff was a lot simpler because it was done with slide rules and analog things like
Yes,
that and
right,
the way things were
right.
drafted. But not only that, but like, also one of the things that I never really thought about until I started like really getting interested in old textbooks like this is the quality of the art in there. Because
interesting.
nowadays, everything we do in textbooks and stuff like that, they're illustrated. They're usually illustrated by using computer graphics or
Sure.
CAD of some sort. But this was before computers existed, and all of the illustrations are hand drawn.
Wow.
And they're just tremendous works of art in and of themselves.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way they shaded contours and the way they hand wrote the dimensions
Right.
on beams and stuff like that.
Wow.
It's really a cool study in something that a lot of people don't realize is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the art form of technical drafting and communicating technical ideas in an illustrative way. And it's really neat to see these old books like that.
They're worth saving, John.
Yes,
No doubt.
absolutely. And a lot of people don't realize that they're worth saving, which is why I can get them for so cheap.
Love that. Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate that.
Fantastic.
one of my holy grail ones is to get the first edition, I think 1927 printing of the American Institute of Steel Construction.
Okay.
The Steel Construction Manual.
What year is that?
1927.
1927.
Yeah.
I think. You probably hadn't spent this much time looking, but have you gone online to look at like Walmart books? They have old books. Walmart.
Yeah, I've looked for it for a couple times, and every now and then I'll find that first edition printing, but it's like, hundreds of dollars.
Really? Okay. Yeah. Okay. So people do know the value of that one. Okay. Gotcha. This is one of the reasons I love going to thrift stores, and just the concept of, for example, the other day I was leaving after finding something pretty cool at a thrift store. I just found one thing relatively cheap, and I'm backing out and I'm leaving, and I see a guy over at the dumpster with a big cart, and he's just looking at stuff. He's looking at something, throw it away. Look at something, throw it away. And I can't help but think, this guy's not an expert.
Right.
He doesn't know what he's doing. He's just looking to see, does it look like it could sell? Does it present good or whatever? He could be throwing away a camera that I would love to have.
Right.
The first edition of your book, that you're looking for, Steel Construction. This is an old book. Nobody wants.
Yeah.
And if there's nothing you can do about it. I actually thought maybe I'll start volunteering at
Yeah, you should, man.
store. You know what I mean? It'd be the person that goes through.
Yeah.
So those things are before we see them, they're vetted.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And how many? I've gone to the same thrift store, the waterfront thrift store, and I asked one of the managers. It was years ago. I said, "Do y'all have any cameras in the back?" He said, "Well, we just threw." He said, "Wait a minute." He went to talk to somebody. He said, "We just threw away just a minute ago a whole box of cameras." He said, "Do you want me to go after?" I said, "Yeah, I'd like for you to go get it."
You should have said, "No, I will go after it." You get a whole box for free.
They literally took the box and put it in the dumpster. They didn't even go through. I guess they may have gone through it. And he took the whole box out and said, "Here you go. Just tell me what you want to pay for them." I said, "Cool deal, baby." And I went through them. I don't even remember what they were, but I certainly took most of the stuff that was in there. That stuff it's a shame, but
we have lost our attachment to history.
Yeah.
And I think bringing those books, I think what I want to do, since you've been doing this musical track, I want to bring some old books.
Do it. Let's deep dive into some books.
Yeah. Because we've totally lost our connection to the past. And, there's this idea, especially in science, Isaac Newton, he said, the only reason I've been able to see as far as I have is because I've stood on the shoulders of giants. And he was talking about, he built on the work of Kepler and Galileo and, all these other guys. And, we have a tremendous, I don't know, it seems like things are advancing so quickly now that the distance between us and the past is happening faster than it used to.
That's a good way of putting that. The distance between us and the past is happening faster than it used to. Right,
because it used to be like there is an attachment between us and the generation before us.
Yeah.
When you go further into the past, like take for instance, the family business. It would be, a guy starts the family business, he passes it on to his son, his son, and his son, and his son. And it's like a multi-generational thing. And so like you would have someone who's running this business, but this has been what his family has done for the past X number of generations. And as time has moved forward, you see that sort of thing not happening as much. It might be, well, this was my dad's business, and I've carried it on, but then it kind of ends at that generation. And nowadays, there's not too many generational businesses, or really anything, not even just businesses, but really anything. There's not a lot of generational stuff. Like the kids don't live in the house that they grew up in anymore. That was handed down from their parents. They always go to college, move to some other state, pursuing a career, and like I said, the distance between us and the past is growing at a faster rate.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that's another good example. You know, these old textbooks, because the way we teach stuff now is far different than the way we taught stuff back then. It was like now there, especially in the technical fields, there's a heavy reliance on like computer solutions, and you know, especially now, like with the emergence of AI, of building stuff on top of AI and not over the proven principles of the things that got us to this point. And it's gotten to the point where, like, you know, I've noticed this in the classroom. Students nowadays don't have the same ability to sit down and wrestle with a problem that they used to, even, you know, 10, 20 years ago. It's always like, well, can't figure this out. I've tried for a couple of minutes. Let me Google it, see if Google will give me a solution. And now what I hear a lot, not just with students, but even with clients or contractors or whatever, is like, I don't know how to do this. I'm just going to ask ChatGPT to do it for me. And ChatGPT does the wrong thing. But, you know, it's so here again, it's no longer, let me go back and look at some standard. Like, let me go pull a book out, like a standard of steel construction or whatever, and see what I'm supposed to do here. It's, let me go to something quick, ChatGPT. There's a separation between us and the past, and it ends at, you know, AI or Google or something like that. And there's no more standing on the shoulders of giants. It's standing on something that doesn't really have a good foundation.
Josh, let me transition from there to something that I feel has a solid base, and it's one of the things in life that's in my life, and it's in Chris's life, that we can go back to. And in my opinion, it's better than it is now. Many ways, it's better than it is now. And we still go back. We're doing it differently now, and we're doing it better, arguably. But we can go back to the early 1900s, and it's basically the same thing. It's capturing light to create an image.
I thought you were going to go into photography.
Yep. It's capturing light to create an image. We're still doing it now. What we're recording with right now is a EOS R50, Canon R50. Fine camera. For most people, this is more than a camera than you'll ever need. Most people, the phone is all they ever need. But for Chris and I, who are hobbyists, and you're somewhat of a hobbyist also, this is a good starting point or even an ending point for most people. But what I want to show you is something that I picked up in a thrift store. Thank you. Picked up in a thrift store that was probably the best find that I've ever found.
Okay.
So this is called the Yashica Mat 124G, and I think you don't even have to be a photography person to know what this is. Chris has given me the. This is in immaculate condition. There's no scratch. There's usually haze on the lens. Thank you. There's usually haze on the lens. There's nothing on these. If there's a little dirt, you can wipe it off. Usually that ends up being haze and it's on the inside. Nothing. There's no scratches. I probably put more scratches in this, treating it like it was gold, than the person that had it for me. All this black stuff, that stuff could get scratched up. And it shows the metal, and there's nothing. This thing is perfect, and it just captures. All it does is capture light, create it, and then shows a picture. It takes 120 film, 120 or 110 film. 120. It's a bigger. The negative is probably about that size, whereas a 35 millimeter is a quarter of that, if I'm not mistaken, by a quarter of that. So this means this is really it's kind of HD. It has more, it captures more information, if you will, more detail. So this is a really cool camera to have. But I think it was developed in like the early 80s. Now, if you're like me, I thought these stopped being developed in the '60s. This was like the early '80s or the late '70s. But whoever had this before me didn't use it. I can tell you that. And I had to pay up for it. Seriously, it was $200. But I saw it and I went, oh my gosh! It wasn't in a bin. It was under glass, behind the shelf, and you had to ask to pick it up and to look at it and everything. And I had been looking at these. I knew what it was worth. It was worth right around, depending, $200 to $400. $400 would be the ones that were in fantastic shape. Scratched up and bargain bin with $200, and they were asking for $200 for this immaculate piece of machinery, and that's what it is. It's an immaculate piece of machinery, and it's so simple, right? It's so simple. Right. Josh, have you seen this? Have I showed this to you yet?
No, I've seen other ones.
Okay.
I'm not gonna handle it because I'll probably drop it.
It's just it's so easy to use. You can look down. You can use a magnifying glass to look a little bit closer to get the critical focus, or you can use this finder back here to look through it and get good shots like that. But everything is handled. You hold it like this. It's got bellows, so it can go in and out. It's all manual. There's nothing. The only thing electronic in here is a battery to measure the light, and you don't even have to use that. You don't have to. So everything in here it's a piece of engineering, in my opinion, that is genius. The simplicity of it.
Why do you think it's important, though, to why was it important to you to spend $200 on that piece of history?
First of all, I'm going to use it to take photos, and those photos, they're just. Even a person who doesn't know anything about photography will look at a photo that I take from this and have it printed and go, man, there's something about that that's really intriguing. Something, because it can be really big and you can see everything, and the colors in it are so rich. Every camera has its own way of taking color and light and mixing it, but these things are known to do that really well. There's no camera today that can look like a picture that came out of here. Now I'm gonna have to get it developed and pay for that and all that fun stuff, but that's the special part of it. And there's only 12 or 24 pictures that I can take. I'm gonna probably have to spend $100 before I get a good, a good shot, because you have to, as what you see in here is not what you get from the film. You have to know the numbers. It's like flying blind. You have to know to navigate what you're doing, and every camera's different, so it's gonna handle everything differently. Historically, honestly, I didn't see it and go, I've got to rescue that camera. I saw it and went, I want that daggone camera. It was very selfish, It was a very selfish buy, but I got it, put it away. I got it about a year and a half, maybe even 2 years ago.
Okay.
And I have barely touched it. We do a lot. I know you haven't seen it. Since Chris hasn't seen it, I know I haven't touched it because we do camera stuff together all the time.
Yeah.
But I'm teaching photography. I'm doing digital photography. I'm taking pictures of baseball. I don't have time, but I knew that one day I was going to take. It was waiting for you. It was waiting for me, and I knew I'd have it safe somewhere. And just recently, I started getting interested in it, and got it out and started playing with it. Put film in it.
So compared to all the advanced digital stuff and the way photos are processed, and the difference between raw images and the way you tweak them and all that stuff, why do you think it's important to have? I hesitate to say such a simplistic thing, but in a way, it's like the amount of things that does is far less than the amount of things that, like, say, one of these Canon EOS does. Why would you say? And I'm asking this because this leads directly into what we're talking about in the Bible today. Good. Why do you think it's important to have something from the 1980s like that, as opposed to just saying, you know what, I like the modern tools that we have. They're far more versatile.
Why is it important for me to have it, or to have
you,
this?
You personally, we'll say.
because you can only get such a perfect shot, right? I mean, I've taken some really good shots, especially lately with baseball. And I don't want to sound this way, but I'm just going to say it. I'm tired of taking perfect shots. I'm ready to take some imperfect, less than in immaculate tack sharp pictures. I want to take some photos that look like they're from the 60s, look like from the 70s, without going into post and using a preset or something like that. I want to really start taking pictures. Like with this, it's not a fast camera. You can't take an action shot very well with this unless you know what you're doing extremely well. So this, I'll take portraits with. I'll take portraits of my mother, take portraits of my wife, really close, and maybe some mostly black and white. I'll, go downtown, take a picture of a boat in black and white with this. Will look so much better than it will with one of these. It wouldn't be my only camera by any means. I mean, I have to have a semi up-to-date camera to make any money with photography. But I'm also doing a wedding in September, I think it is. I'm definitely going to do some shots with this, but after I've already got a lot of shots with my digital camera. So, especially what they want to do, what they call it, what they had a theme. The two people that are in our gun club, they had a theme.
I forget what their theme was.
They have a certain theme. It's the lady or the guy with the pitchfork.
American Gothic.
American Gothic.
Yeah.
They want to do American Gothic theme photo shoot. This will be perfect for that. This will be absolutely perfect for that because of the way it renders pictures. And it'll be great. I mean, that will be worth more to them and worth more to me to get a really good shot like that. Even if it's just a little fuzzy out of focus, who cares? That's part of the character of it. So historically, yes, it's good, especially one in this good condition. Oh my! And it's what Chris knows. I'm like, you feel it, and it's just solid. It's a tank. Now this is a G, which means it has gold, some gold connections in there. The 124, I'm going to look for a matte 124. It is all metal. It is a tank. It was the one before this, and the only difference is it doesn't have gold. But it's even bigger, and it just feels really good. And I've always liked a big camera. So to answer your question, after a while, pictures start looking kind of the same to me using a very overly expensive camera, and I've gotten other film cameras out and start taking pictures of them too for that.
You get tired of perfection?
And I don't want to say that, but that's the genre that I'm going for.
Or bored with it.
Yep. Yeah. Get bored with perfection. And I'll say this also, if you go to Pensacola Christian College, no, not Pensacola, what is it? What's the university that you teach at?
Oh, UWF.
UWF. What's the other one that we have here?
PSC.
PSC. If you go to PSC and take
University
photography.
University of West Florida, Pensacola State College.
There you go. Pensacola State College has a photography curriculum. They teach you on film. They don't teach you on digital. That's later on. So you have to know how to. It's called the exposure triangle. You have to know how to take the light, turn it into a picture, and by doing that analog wise, you learn. You can do any camera. You can use any camera if you know how to do that. Yep.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's like driving a stick.
Yeah.
Right. Anybody can drive a automatic, but you got to learn how to drive a stick.
Right.
Yeah. So anyway, this is cool. I'm gonna kind of hand this to Chris. He can play with it a little bit while we're talking.
Well, this is a really
Sorry, I couldn't see going through the rest of the podcast being this close to Chris and without him touching it.
Well, to me, that's one of the most interesting ideas, though, is our tie to the past. I mean, anyone who either knows me or you've been watching this podcast or whatever, there are certain things that I'm obsessed with, and it's usually around old things. I love genealogies. Like genealogy in the Bible is one thing I'm obsessed with. I'm obsessed with like the history of empires as world history has moved forward. I'm obsessed with old books, old
Mm-hmm.
text, like engineering textbooks and math and science books. Like it seems to me that there's this there's this concept that's lost today, which we've already talked about, of being tied to the past, and if we're not tethered to the past, it's like that old saying, right? If you don't know history, you're doomed to repeat it. And I remember this past Sunday, in the Sunday morning service, the pastor, he was talking about, I forget what the name of the title of the sermon was. It was something like, "Which way do I go?" And it was about like guidance on how to move forward, how to make the right decision to project into the future. And I thought it was really interesting the verse he used, or one of the verses he used in support of that, came from Deuteronomy chapter 30. And it was where God had reminded him, I have it written down here. God had reminded Israel, this was, so a little bit of context, Deuteronomy 30. Israel is wandering the wilderness. So they're between Sinai and Jericho. And God is telling him, he's like, I call heaven and, this is Deuteronomy 30:19. I call heaven and earth to record this day against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore, choose life, that both thou and thy seed shall live. So there's a couple things that are important here, because God was talking about a multi-generational plan for Israel, because he said that both thou and thy seed shall live. And he's giving Israel some guidance about how to navigate the future. He said, like, you have two decisions that are before you. There's life and death, blessing and cursing. He said, choose life so that both you and your seed shall live. And this came at a really important time in the history of Israel, because in Deuteronomy 30 is kind of like the tail end of a much longer conversation between God and Israel. When you go back a couple chapters, Deuteronomy 27, he's giving Israel some direction about what they do when they get into the Promised Land. Because if you remember, Israel, they're delivered from Egypt, they cross the Red Sea, they get to Mount Sinai. God gives them the entire law, the Ten Commandments and the law and the specifications on the tabernacle, all that kind of stuff. And then Israel move on from Sinai, and eventually they get to Jericho, and they're ready to cross over into the Promised Land, and they send the 12 spies. And two of them came back, Joshua and Caleb. They're like, yeah, we got this. God's already delivered them into our hand and all this. The 10 other ones, they looked at everything. They're like, there's no way.
Right.
There's giants in
They're
the land.
bigger than we are.
Yeah,
more of them.
Yeah, we're at a significant strategic disadvantage. There's no way we can beat them. We gotta figure something else out. Like, this is not the option. And Israel followed the majority, the 10 that said we can't do it, and God punished them as a result. He says, okay, fine, then you're going to get what you wished. This generation's not going to go into the Promised Land. You're going to wander the desert for 40 years until this generation dies off, with the exception of Joshua and Caleb, and it's your kids that are going to go into the Promised Land. And so during that 40 years, a lot of stuff happened, and this account that we're talking about here is one of them. God starts instructing Israel. It's like, okay, when your kids get to the Promised Land, I want you to do something when you get there. He's like, there's two mountains over by the city called Shechem. And Shechem, it's the city of Shechem. Everybody knew where that was, because Shechem was one of those really important cities that had a lot of history.
It's near the big chicken.
Right, so near the big the big chicken place, door north. But Shechem was where Jacob and his family stopped. Well, let's go back even further. Shechem was where Jacob's 12 sons ganged up on some guys that messed with their sister, and lied to him, killed them all, and moved on. And so, that was one thing that happened in Shechem. Another thing that happened is when Jacob was leaving his uncle Laban's house with his family. He picked up his family and moved from Laban's house. They passed through Shechem.
Y'all come on.
And they stopped at an oak tree there, and Jacob, he took all the idols that his family had and buried them near an oak tree in Shechem, and said, "We're not going to do idols. We're going to follow God." And so Shechem has showed up several places in Israel's history, so everybody knew where that was, and God referred them back to that place. It's like when you get into the Promised Land again, you're going to go to that town of Shechem, and there's two mountains, one just north of it, which is Mount Ebal, and one just south of it, which is Mount Gerizim. And these are referred to as the mountain of blessing, or mountains of blessing and cursing. So Ebal to the north was the mountain of cursings. Gerizim to the south was the mountain of blessings. He said, what I want you to do there, and this is all in Deuteronomy like 27 to 28. He said, when you get there, I want you to go to Mount Ebal, and I want you to erect these huge stones, cover them with plaster, and I want you to write on the face of those stones the words of all of the law that I've given you at Mount Sinai. So carbon copy paste, right? And then I want you to build an altar there, and I want you to offer burnt sacrifices, a peace offering, and all that stuff. And so, and then he says, I want half of you, and he named the tribes, like these 6 tribes I want you to stand on Mount Ebal, and the other 6 tribes I want you to stand on Mount Gerizim, and Shechem is right in the valley between those two, and you can go there today, and from what I understand, the acoustics are really cool because you can hear what's going on both mountains because of the way the acoustics of that environment works. Right. But he says when you get on Mount Ebal and the other ones are standing on Mount Gerizim, I want you to go line by line through the law, and everywhere where there's a curse pronounced in the law, like cursed is the man who does this, I want everyone that's on Mount Ebal to read that out loud. And everywhere where there's a blessing in the law, like blessed is the man that does this, I want everyone who's standing on Mount Gerizim to read that. And so you'll be going back and forth. Half of the entire nation of Israel is on Mount Ebal reading this, and half of the entire nation on Mount Gerizim is reading this. And that's kind of an interesting thing in and of itself, because the entire land of Canaan hadn't been conquered yet. They're kind of in the middle of enemy territory on these 2 mountains. These 2 nations are just reciting line by line, back and forth, every line of the law. This is kind of like where Canaan gets the idea, like, hey, you know what? Israel's supposed to kill people who are in Canaan, but they're supposed to be nice to people who come from outside of Canaan. So let's put on clothes and have old equipment and stuff like we're from a really far away place, and we'll trick them into thinking that we're not local Canaan, and they'll become our friends, and they won't kill us. Because they're in the region, they're listening to all this stuff, kind of listening to Israel's playbook, where God is instructing them. So they deceive Israel, and that happens kind of around this whole thing. So anyway, God's telling him this process to do, and so we get all the way, and then Deuteronomy 30, 19, which we just read. God is telling them, like, the reason that you're doing this is because I want it to be clear. Like, there's 2 paths in front of you. There's the path of blessing, and there's the path of cursing. There's the path of life, and there's the path of death. And I want you to choose life. So I'm presenting those 2 options to you. And when you get into the promised land, the land of Canaan, I want your sons and daughters to do this. So everybody, it's kind of like, this is the next generation. And what they're doing is they're pulling off of the shelf. They're pulling off this old book from their parents. And it would have probably been about the same time between this book and now. Mount Sinai and when they were on Mount Gerizim,
Okay.
and Mount Ebal. Right? So they would have been pulling this off the shelf and reading it line by line. These are the blessings, these are the curses, and reading that not just to each other, but reading that essentially to the entire land of Canaan around them. And God said, these are the two paths, choose life. And what's cool about that, going back to the things that we've been talking about here about being tied to the past, and how it's important to not just to haphazardly throw things from the past away because there's an inherent importance to them. It was the same concept there, because when you get to the next generation, this is in Joshua chapter 8, they're in the promised land, and Israel does that. They say, hey, remember, God told us way back in the wilderness that when we get here, we need to do this. So they conquered a few cities. They made their way up to Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim. And these mountains still exist today. You can go there and see evidence that this happened. And they go there and they remind themselves of the past where they came from. They reminded themselves of what God gave to their parents at Mount Sinai, so that it could guide their steps moving into the future. And one of the failures that Israel experienced over and over again was their constant inability to hold to that which God had given the generation previous.
Yeah.
They had detached themselves from the previous generation, both in their adherence to the law, their memory of the law, their memorials that were supposed to constantly be a reminder of how God had fought for them, and things like that. They detached themselves from the past, and it ended up leading ultimately to their destruction. And I think that's important for us to remember too. Now, what's cool later on in the book, so that was Joshua chapter 8 where they did that. Later on, Joshua 24, they come back to that area, because between chapter 8 and 24, they did a lot of conquering, not as much as they should have, but they did a lot of conquering. They were dividing up the land, all that stuff. And they all met once again at Shechem between those two mountains. And that's the famous speech where Joshua stood up in front of them and said, our fathers, he refers to this event in their history called the flood. That wasn't Noah's flood. He was talking about the Red Sea. Okay. He says, before the flood, Abraham and his father and his grandfather, they worshipped other gods. This is Abraham and his family growing up in Ur and in Chaldea. And you can go there today and you can see like these monuments, these very ancient monuments where people worshipped like the moon god and different things like that. And that was Abraham's history. His family were pagan, idol worshiping, non-Jewish, whatever. God called Abraham out of that, and Abraham became a follower of God. And so Joshua was drawing this contrast in chapter 24 of Joshua. He's like, you come from a background that was pagan, that worshipped man-made ideas of what a God should be. God called Abraham out of that, and that's where our nation comes from. And God has called us to serve him, the one true God. And so just like, when all of us were here at these two mountains in Joshua 8, several years ago, talking about the blessings and cursings, that refers back to when God told Moses, I'm presenting two options, life and death. I'm presenting those same two options. I'm going a little bit more detailed. The decision between life and death is the decision to serve God or to serve these idols. So you can serve all these idols that our ancient ancestors did. You can serve the idols that the people in this land serve, or you can serve God. And he's like, I don't know what you're going to choose,
But for me and my house.
Yes, for me and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. Really, really sentimental verse to me personally, because that's why that verse is why my parents named me Joshua.
Is that right?
Yeah.
All right.
But here again, they're at that same spot in Shechem, and Joshua, and obviously Israel, in the moment they're like, well, of course we're going to keep all the commandments of God. We're going to follow Him, and they did so throughout the entire life of Joshua, and the other people that lived with Joshua, like that generation followed God and did what was right and all that stuff. It was the book of Judges after Joshua died where they started to descend into all the other stuff. Well, anyway, so because that was like the renewal of that covenant that God had made with Israel, and so to commemorate that, Joshua, in that valley of Shechem between Mount Ebal and Mount Gerizim, he erected this stone pillar that like memorialized the renewal of that covenant between Israel and God. That stone it's called Joshua's standing stone. It's still standing in that spot today. You can go there and look at it.
Can we see some of that stuff in Google Maps? Can we
yes,
see?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on Google Maps. There's pictures of it online, all that kind of stuff too. Maybe we'll have Chris stick one in there.
Yeah.
But that location still exists. That monument still exists, and I think the history of that monument is really compelling in this regard too, because there have been a lot of people throughout history who have tried to knock that down and have been successful. Like archaeologists found it at the base of the hill because
so it has been knocked down.
It has been knocked down, yeah.
Wow.
But it's been re-erected
since
then because of the archaeological significance of it.
Wow.
But I think I think that's one of those examples where we're compelled over and over again to go back and see where we came from, because it's important to have those fixed points in history to go back to and remind ourselves of what God did.
Wow, that's such a great lesson in what we've talked about with photography and in life.
Well, they're also guideposts to help us
right.
go forward into the future, because if you don't have any foundation or anything to push off of, then your future is really undirected.
And we're seeing, if you believe the media and believe people that we're around and us, you're seeing a resurgence of Christianity these days. It seems like that. Does it seem like that to you? We're seeing
and there's data to support it too. Not just
Okay.
the resurgence of like the belief in God, but church attendance.
Okay.
Across the board seems to be on the rise as well. And I think that's really significant because it's kind of putting action to a belief.
And just the what kind of proof? Anecdotal proof. It's hard to get a parking spot at Marcus Point Baptist Church. There's times in not so long past where it wasn't that difficult.
Yes.
And now you got to travel. If you're late, you got to travel. That's just an anecdotal, comparison. But
it's both annoying and a blessing
Yes.
at the same time.
I think I saw you come in one time. You're kind of sweating, going, "Man, I wish people weren't coming to church because you had to park way in the back."
Jokingly.
That's right. Jokingly saying that. But I love the comparison that you had with the photography and the old camera that I have. That there is something about going back to those cornerstones, because that type of camera is it shows an evolution. If you're going to show a picture of evolution, that one of those. A camera like that, dual lens, twin lens reflex is what it's called. That would be in one of the pictures. You know what I mean? One of the big with the bellows in front of it that collapses down. That would be one picture. Camera like that would be another picture. Then one of these, a digital picture. So that is a cornerstone, and we can go back to those and learn something from every one of those cameras. And just like what you're saying, we need to look back at these monuments and remember why God had them erect them, and all the things that He said. We hear people saying the Bible is a historic book, and maybe it is a historic book, but it doesn't mean that it doesn't have the same meaning today.
Right.
I can take a great picture with that camera, You know, we can look at the Bible and learn how. It doesn't say anything about cameras in the Bible that I know of, but we can look back in the Bible and learn how to be a better steward today of the earth, of a steward of His money that He's blessed us with, and
Technology.
Everything.
Yeah.
Right? It's there. It's there. So, thanks for teaching us that today, Josh.
Yeah.
You got it. You know, I wanted to bring attention to that little tablet that you have. Also, speaking of analog and digital. That is the most intriguing little thing that I've seen in a while.
Yeah, a little LCD tablet. It doesn't. It's not like doesn't have an operating system or anything. It's purely just it holds one page of notes,
Hold
and
that
then
up to the camera right there, real quick.
then you press a button and it goes away.
But you can. But an app is related to it that you can.
Yeah, you can take a picture of it with your phone and convert it. But like, if
So cool.
Yeah. Here's all my notes.
That's right. And if you, and there they go. If you got good handwriting or printing or whatever, that would.
Yeah, I use it as a scratch pad on my desk.
Very
Like
nice.
someone calls, I'll jot it down
That's
real
good.
quick. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
me too. In relation to going paperless, that's part of going paperless.
Yeah.
Right.
Just because my desk gets so messy with papers
Right.
already. So
Gotcha.
anything I can do to try to mitigate that.
There you go. 75th.
Yep,
This
75th
was
episode.
75th
That was fun.
episode. Me too. Always.
See
Thanks,
you on
Chris.
the 100th.
We'll do something for the 100th.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Before you know it, we'll be the 100th. Today is Saturday. We usually record on Thursday, but today's Saturday, and it's my wife's birthday, like I said at the beginning. And I love you, Donna, and we've been married for the 26 years next month. And it's been the 7 of the best years of
Wow.
Kidding. I'm kidding. I think we mentioned that with you last shot. I'm just kidding. It's been wonderful, and we'll celebrate your birthday today, honey. Or we will have celebrated your birthday, and I'm sure we had a good time. And I love you, and cherish you, and honor you, and thank you for being one of the many listeners of our podcast. Many, it's a relative term. Right.
One of the 6 listeners.
That's right. Anyway, thank you all very much. We appreciate it. And Chris, thank you. Happy birthday and happy anniversary.
Yep.
All right. Love you all. See you later.